Welcome to Wealthy Mind, where we talk about all things finances, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the surprising. Welcome to Wealthy Mind. I am your host, Misty Rose Gold, International Success Coach. And today I have with me Josh Pies. Hi, Josh.
Hey, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm feeling good. I enjoy having conversations, especially about what you wanted to talk about today, because it's fun. So I am
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to this conversation.
Yes. Before we dive in, please tell people what is your current business?
So, C47 Digital Studios is a video podcast production company.
Mm-hmm.
We help business to business companies leverage the idea of video podcasting actually as a business development tool. We believe in building relationships, and the golf course and steak dinners and coffee are just far less memorable and have fewer touch points than doing
Mm,
what we're doing right now and doing a show. And so we train people how to do it. We handle all the tech, we handle all the editing, we do all this stuff in order to let business professionals be the professionals that they're supposed to be. They
mm.
shouldn't learn the tech. We handle that.
I agree with you on all fronts, which is
Thank
why
you.
my lovely partner, Trifon, business partner, not dating partner, but
Yep.
my lovely business partner, Trifon, handles all of the tech. So
It's a great plan. Yeah. Let people who love it do it.
he loves tech. It's his jam. He's been in
That's
tech
cool.
forever. He created our Wealthy Mind app. So
Oh, that's really awesome. So he's really into
yeah.
tech.
Oh, he created that bad boy from scratch and did the layout, and it's beautiful and wonderful and all the things. So Trifon is amazing in tech, and my strength is what I do, which is gathering people and interviewing people and coaching people and all the things. So we make
Awesome.
a beautiful partnership.
It's really, really cool. Way to go, Trapon.
Yes, yes, definitely. So I love that you're doing this for business owners because I use our podcast as a strategic play as well. So it
Of course.
naturally fits into my public speaking, it naturally fits into my coaching and networking and all the things. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, if you'll allow it, the idea of a video podcast can fit into a lot of different sales and networking opportunities.
Mhm.
Speakers naturally lend to it, authors lend really well to it,
Yep.
but the guy who's selling pumps for manufacturing, he's a candidate too.
Yes, yes. Outside the box thinking, yes.
Yeah,
Love that. Love it. Yep.
thank you.
I work with my business owners and executives on that very topic of think outside the box. And that's one of the reasons why they hire me, right? So this is one
Right.
of the reasons why people are going to seek you out is because, oh, well, I'm not a coach. I'm not a blah, blah, blah. It's a natural fit for my world because I am an author
Oh,
too.
totally.
It's a very natural fit for me, a natural progression. It fits in seamlessly with everything else. But if you have a brick and mortar, let's say you're a chiropractor, right? Or a
That's right.
doctor or a
Well, and I'll
mechanic.
tell you what, a chiropractor is a great example because a chiropractor's best referral partner is a personal injury attorney. Chiropractors should be
Mm,
out there doing a show for personal injury attorneys, helping those attorneys learn how to do their job better, how to find new ways of doing things, how to free up their time so they can see their family a little bit more. All of those things are on the table as conversation, but it's the chiropractor serving them. And so he becomes known as somebody who cares about his personal injury attorneys and their world in such a unique way and built such great relationships
mm,
that he'll be a unicorn.
love it. I have a client who's a chiropractor. I'm going to share this with him.
Oh, tell him to do it. He should totally do it. We could help him or he can find another way. However, he does it, he can own a strong space by building relationships with PIs.
Hmm. Okay. Personal injury attorneys with chiropractors. Awesome. I love it. Okay. Now, what's another industry? Let's give the listener something juicy. Another industry that's not obvious that would go into
Sure.
podcasting?
A not obvious one. Business brokers are getting really into podcasting right now because
Mm,
the transition as a business owner to a business, as a former business owner who harvested their business, is an unknown. Most of them are done for the first and only time ever. So they're going to do a lot of deep research. So your audience is really, really important to you. But the referral partners for that crowd are bankers, people who are SBA loan specialists,
hmm
people who are in industries that are doing a lot of M&A buy-ups. And so that's a great way of networking, but also educating your future customer base. So the M&A business broker crowd really loves the podcast space. We have two of them, and we may have a third soon in our coffers because they just get it.
Mm.
Another one that we're seeing great success in right now, of all things, is acoustical engineering. And
Okay,
so
that's an odd one. All right, bring it. Please
Yeah,
explain.
so this one is actually a family member of mine who asked, "Gee, do you think I could do this?" And I'm like, "Of course you could." And he's an internationally respected, well-known acoustical designer and engineer.
Mm,
And so he's educating architects and engineers who might hire out those services, but also might be tempted to do it on their own
mm,
about all sorts of things. And in some cases, he's really helping them do it on their own with some of his education. So he does them a solid and does some good root level education. What they can do, they can thank him for the knowledge, but they learn pretty quickly that they need his help. So it's been great as an education tool. He hasn't actually found too many people who want to be on his show, so he's doing solo cast, which is okay.
okay.
But he's just finding that there's so many people who are hungry to figure out how sound works in a space because they're about to spend $1 million on a space.
hmm
And and if you get it wrong, you're permanently wrong.
Right.
So it's a big scary purchase. And so anybody who's got a big scary purchase coming really would do well to have a guide. And that guide can show up in
Mm,
YouTube videos or podcasts or both. But if your high ticket, low transaction volume in your business, your audience probably needs you.
mm. I love that. So what I'm hearing from you is if you are going to start a podcast, you want to interview your potential clients
If you can.
or power partners.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes. So it's a fabulous way of networking, everyone, by the way.
Well, it's my favorite way, right? It's because I got to say, hey, you're interesting, and I want my world to know about your world. Will you come on my show? And people go,
Uh-huh,
oh, really?
uh-huh.
Why? And I go, well, you're smart about this. You're really good at that. So I get a
hmm
real moment to build them up. And then
Yes,
I have them on my show and we hang out and we have a great time. And then that night
yes.
I'm texting like that thing you said about the thing. Oh my gosh. And then we're celebrating it. And then we release it. And then I'm tagging them and it's like, this was the coolest thing ever. And then they're sharing and I call it a hippie capitalist love fest.
That's awesome. I love your
Yeah. And actually I've
definition.
changed my title recently. My cards are not in yet, but I am now a hippie capitalist. I'm not the CEO. I'm not the executive producer. I could have that title, but I'm the hippie capitalist.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I love providing value to people because all
Mm.
of my work is built on trust.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have a book that I will give away to people. I have my
Awesome.
time that I will give away to people in a
Which
complimentary
is so
session.
valuable. So, so valuable.
Extremely valuable. The most precious thing I have is my time. And I have these different ways of providing value up front and building that trust. And the podcast is one of them. And it's like epic as far as how it has upscaled the value that I bring to people and give them. So it's like, oh, hey, do you want me to showcase you and your business for free marketing and perpetuity of the length of the life of the podcast? And they're
Yeah,
like,
pretty generous, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
they're yeah, hello. And it just feels good to me because I am a giver by nature. And if I
yeah,
give first, then I feel like I have permission to make an ask. But if I don't give first, it's kind of hard to make those asks. And sometimes I do just because I know the person needs me to,
sure.
but I'd rather give first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm the president of my BNI chapter. I firmly believe in
Mm,
BNIs. And the motto of all of BNI, the whole worldwide organization, is givers gain.
Mm,
And the reality is that though when you give to somebody, you might gain back from them, the immediate gain is that you're seen as a giver. And happens the word. And when somebody else will see you as somebody trustworthy because of your attitude and how you handle things.
hmm.
And that's really where the gold is. It's not in the reciprocation that's one to one. I gave to you, therefore you give to me. That
Right,
quid pro quo isn't necessary because it's just the way humans work.
right.
We observe somebody who's giving and trustworthy, and we go, okay, the next time I'm in need, they're clearly somebody I can go to.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yep. And I tell people that all the time. The place that you give isn't necessarily where it's coming back from.
That's it.
It's not
Yep.
transactional. Like if you're trying to make it transactional and, oh, I'm going to give to this person and this person's going to give back to me, it doesn't work that way.
Which is why giving to a nonprofit still can be valuable when it comes to a business. You can give a ton of your time and they're not going to pay you back. They can't. It's not even
Hmm.
legal, right? Unless you were hired by them and that's not giving, that's a
Right.
job, right? But, you can give a ton of time to a nonprofit and then the world knows that you're caring
Hmm.
and your cachet goes up. When your cachet goes up, that can turn into cash in other ways.
Hmm. Oh, 100%. So I used to be on the board of or not Dress for Success, but Hope Kids.
Oh, cool.
Yep, I was on the board for 2 years and I worked with the executive director and all the things, which was great and wonderful. And we featured them on our app.
Oh, that's cool.
Now I'm coming up to a year anniversary with Dress for Success. So the relationship with Hope Kids fizzled out. And I was like, okay, universe, I need another nonprofit to support.
Yeah.
And literally 2 days later, Dress for Success representative walked into my networking group and I was like, okay,
Nice. Good timing.
donezo. But how did I start the relationship? I started it by giving. I gave 2 workshops. I did 2 2-hour workshops for the community. And
Yep.
then I asked them to pass around our flyers for the app. Well, guess what? Just recently, end of July, I went and spoke at one of their events to talk about our relationship and give more to the audience and give more to the organization. And just that alone, it creates this richness. And I may never get anything back, and that's okay.
Well, and when you're okay with it, that's actually when it will come back because if you're going in with expectations, you're going in with the wrong attitude, the wrong heart, and
Hmm.
that does show, and the world kind of knows, and
Hmm.
that's when you don't get rewarded. So you've really got to go in knowing that you have sown time that you can't get back. You have sown probably your own resources that you can't get back, but you know you did good, and
Hmm.
the good was the payoff.
Yes, yes. And it's great because Dress for Success loves me. They love all
Awesome.
the stuff that I've done for them. Their patrons love me. And that is so priceless. Having that connection with the executive director and the event planner,
Yeah,
and then the people that go and attend. Like I have a very personal connection with all of them. That's priceless. And for me to have
it
that
is.
because they've brought me in and they trust me to guide their people, guess what? I am so willing to talk about them. And I ask at the end of each podcast in the outro, please support your local Dress for Success. Why? Because I'm very passionate about the organization and just how rich it is and what it provides for the community and for women. It's amazing. So I will
Cool.
plug them all day long and I'll talk about them during this episode because of it, right? It's just
Yeah,
when you find that thing that connects and feels right, go with it. And this is for everybody listening. Even if you don't get a return, the transactional shit has to stop, you guys. Like, hands down in business, it has to stop because we are humans
right.
at the end of the day.
We are relational, and when you sow relational seeds, they do sprout. You can't predict quite what they sprout, but you do know it's good sprouting, and you just got to go with it.
100%. Well, let's dive into what I really, really, really want to talk about, which is your
Sure.
personal journey with
Yeah.
being an entrepreneur. And your money journey. It's all tied together. So just,
Oh, it's all tied together. Yeah. So you want me to start at the beginning? And I'll make it, I know you got a shorter podcast, so I'll make it
Mhm.
fun but truncated.
Yes,
Um,
start at the beginning. It's so juicy.
sure. So I'm 44 years old. 40 years ago, I started my entrepreneurial journey. At the age of 4 years old, I had discovered that my mom kept losing her car keys. My neighbor's mom never lost her car keys. And I observed a natural difference. The natural difference was that my friend's mom had a key rack and my mom didn't. So I told my grandfather, I said, Grandpa, I need to make a key rack for mom. And I described it to him, and he goes, "Okay, we're going to draw it. We're going to plan it." Now he was a civil engineer in charge of roll coating at Kodak. So this is the big half a mile long machine that's 5 stories tall. It's 100 feet wide, and it makes all the film that goes through all of the United States for 35 millimeter cameras, movies. He's in charge of all of this. He's a smart guy. And he had this brilliant wood shop in the basement. And so he made me draw it with him. We had to plan it. We had to go to the hardware store. And we got the parts. And I went there as a 4-year-old would, expecting to find, I wanted exactly the part to make the thing. He explained to me very clearly that if I need a 6-inch wooden dowel, they're going to sell it to me as a 4-foot piece of wood. And we're going to have to cut it. And if I'm going to get little gold screw hooks to put
Hmm.
into it, I can't buy a 5 pack. They come in 20s and 100s. And the
Hmm.
price between 20 and 100 is so close, I should just buy the 100. And
Hmm.
he explained to me that we're going to save per unit. And I'm getting this as a 4-year-old. I'm kind of understanding it. So then we go back to the house, and he teaches me how to use a radial arm saw. And the radial arm saw rotates and turns into a drill press. And then he's teaching me how to sand and stain and build this thing. So we built this thing, and we made one of them, and it was for my mom. And I was so proud. And I, for the moment, thought I was done. But he goes, "Okay, Josh, we've got all this stuff. What do we do with all this stuff? We could make more, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's make more." And he goes, "But why would you make more?" And I'm like, "Well, we'll give them to my Aunt Sue. We'll give them to Grandma." Well, and so I have a list of people that we're going to give them away. And he goes, "That's great. We still have one left over on that list. What are you going to do with that?" And I was like, "Grandpa, I don't have keys. I don't need it." And he goes,
Hmm.
"Well, my key's going to hang on Grandma's key rack. So we really have one totally left over. What do you do with it?" And he made the suggestion that I could consider selling it. I was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, that's great." So I went to the next door neighbor. They're very friendly. I sold it for $2.50. And I came back with $2.50. And that was almost enough to pay for all of the materials.
Love it.
And so my grandfather goes, "Well, I gave you a loan on the materials. Let's pay ourselves back." And by the time I was done, I had like 50 cents on me. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I made 50 cents. This is 1984. I'm 4 years old. 50 cents goes pretty far." And so I have 50 cents. And so he goes, "That was fun. You want to do it again?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do this." So now he's training me to go and become a mini manufacturer.
Hmm.
So this turned into what I thought was a fun hobby, but I look back and realize it was an entrepreneurial venture because I was up as a 4-year-old. Top line revenue was 1,600 a year, and my take home was astronomical. It was well over $1,200. So as a 1984 4-year-old, I have bankrolled my I'm buying Christmas gifts for people, I'm buying birthday gifts for people. I can get Hot Wheels all day long. I am rolling in it.
Love it.
I grew up in a very poor family, so I was actually giving loans to my mom and dad, and I had a ledger book in my little toy safe, and they would owe me
Wow.
back. And my grandfather taught me how to track it, and he explained interest. Like it was a thing, and I did this for a couple of years as a kid. Then at eight
Wow.
years old, we shifted because I had sold to everybody I could walk to.
Before we
By
go
the
to
time
eight,
I was eight,
I
we
gotta just,
exhausted.
I have to say something before you
Yeah.
go to the next phase of the story. For you to do this at 4 years old, you have to be incredibly intelligent. So
I
I'm just putting it out there. I'm picking up on your intelligence level. It is through the roof. So,
Well, I that's kind of you to say. Yeah. So
okay,
we end up moving. I
please.
say we. As an 8-year-old, I brought on a business partner. Dumbest move I've ever made in business. He didn't know what he was doing. He pulled no weight. Had to split all the money. So we made $800 on Christmas ornaments when I was 8, and they were homemade again. And went door to door. And I had to split it with him, but I had done 95% of the work. And so it was kind of a hard lesson. Didn't bring on business partners after that. Um, and then, I was that top salesperson for every chocolate sales thing and every whatever the school came up with. I was always the person who was in the top three. Didn't matter. I could just sell. And then, for a number of years, I was playing baseball as a kid, thought I was going to go pro. Got scouted by the Mets organization, landed a D1 scholarship to play as the catcher for the West Virginia Wolverines. Wolverines? Mountaineers, sorry.
Mm,
And I blew out my shoulder, couldn't play.
mhm,
Permanently injured, lost the whole dream. And that's okay. I had an identity crisis temporarily, but I went to college, meandered a little bit. Sometime in college, actually, it was at the end of college on my way into my MBA. My car broke down. I couldn't get anywhere, but I got to get to
mhm,
school.
mhm.
So I had the brainchild that I at that time I was born and raised, and I lived in Rochester, New York,
Okay.
second snowiest city in North America. If my car could pay for itself, I could get a nice car. So I got a pickup truck with a big snowplow, and I decided to do my homework in the truck, and I was going to go and plow driveways and parking lots, whatever I could sell. And so I spent a winter plowing on my own,
Mhm,
made more than enough money to pay for the vehicle, the gas, the insurance, and all of the things.
mhm.
Then I started making some business decisions that allowed me to have 3 trucks and 2 employees and plow a lot more snow. And it kind of, for lack of a better term, snowballed. And in no time, we were a multi-million-dollar company with 35 employees plowing 25 million square feet of parking every time it snowed.
Okay.
It
Now,
got
how
big.
old were you at this time?
23.
Okay. Most of us at 23, we're just still drinking ourselves into oblivion.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah.
All
Yeah. So
right.
I also had 2 side businesses at the same time, and I had to let those go. They were cool ideas, put a little seed money in. Nothing was happening there because the snow plowing was taking off. Um, and then, in about '06, I had a real wake up call. New York State White Collar Crimes Division comes storming my house. I kid you not. Got guns drawn. Are you Josh Pies? Are you Josh Pies? I'm like, yeah, I'm Josh Pies. Of course, I'm calm right now. I was not calm then. Um, and they're like, put your hands on the hood, back away from the car, all this stuff. And I'm like, why are you doing this? They're like, well, you're evading taxes. Like, no, I pay my taxes. And so the head person, his name was Steve, looks right
Mhm,
at me and he goes, you have no clue why we're here, do you? I said, I am positive that I'm clueless.
mhm.
Please help me.
Yeah.
And so they didn't cuff me. They brought me in the house. My wife was there, I very pregnant. And we sat down, brewed some coffee, and Steve pulled a whole bunch of paperwork out. And he showed me that we hadn't paid sales tax in like 6 quarters. But
Mm,
I had written the checks. I knew we had paid,
yeah.
and the money had left our accounts. And then we pieced some things together and we figured out it was probably my dad. And so I called him on speakerphone from the house in front of the New York State White Collar Crimes Division and cornered my dad on the phone. And it ended up being that he goes, "Who's on the line? Who's listening?" And I was like, "Okay, so and I said, so you know you're caught." And then he hung up.
Oh,
And then I scrambled to get to the office and found he is in the process of destroying the last documents in the office. And so it left a massive mess on my hands and it destroyed the company. We were a rising star, written up in national magazines, but he had indeed embezzled the sales tax money and had a scheme behind it and destroyed the company. So that
uh,
was I was bankrupt by 28 ish. And oddly, in the middle of 26 to 27, my wife and I were asked to help with a church TV show.
mm,
And we helped that group turn it into an internationally syndicated sketch comedy show based on faith and family. And we were having so much fun that that was our piece as we were going through the drama and the trauma. And it ended up being the future that would be my calling. And we have had an amazing go of it. I'm not a millionaire anymore, and that's okay. We are on our way back, but it takes a while to climb back from something like that. So
yeah.
I've had a journey, but the attitude that I choose to adopt, and I think this is the most important thing for anybody listening. The drama and the trauma stings really bad in the moment, but you're still breathing. And so you've got a choice to make. You can wallow or you can climb out of the mire and go choose to do something. And I'm so purpose driven and mission driven now with helping small businesses thrive and succeed through our offerings that I see value in helping people through what we do. So the money doesn't actually matter, but the helping does.
Hmm.
And so the money will come, and I see it on its way. You know, we're in growth mode right now. We'll get there. Um, but yeah, you know, so anybody who's gone through something like this, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's actually not a train.
That's good news. And yes, I've been through my own storms and my
I
own
know you
shit
have.
shows and all
Right.
the things, right? So this is why I'm excellent at what I do because I've gone through these myself. Different from yours, but yes. Are you more fulfilled these days?
Way more. I didn't want to be a snowplow guy. I didn't want to have a whole bunch of, 35 people scrambling and we were basically disaster response in that industry.
Hmm.
And so everything, even if you're good at it, everything's a little bit of a panic, everything's a little bit of a risk, everything's a little bit more dangerous.
Hmm.
This is, and don't get me wrong, there was a certain thrill to it,
Sure.
but this life that I'm living now wouldn't trade an ounce of it to get what I had back, not an ounce.
So is fulfillment more important to you these days?
Oh yeah. So the millionaire status for me, and I am pursuing it. The reason why I'm
No
pursuing it,
shame in that, as am I.
no, I have no shame in it either, but I'll tell you that the reason why I'm pursuing it though is I really enjoy philanthropy. And the more I can give strategically, the
Mm,
happier I know I'll be.
hmm.
And I can't do it all. And I'm very aware of that. But
Right.
if I can deploy money to do things for me, I'll
Hmm.
very much enjoy that.
Hmm.
So I need to be high enough net worth that when I'm deploying large sums of money, it's not actually sapping away the ability for money to grow itself.
Hmm.
So I have to give away some, but not all of my interest, and that's big money. So if I don't get rich, I can't help the way I want to help. That's the bottom line.
Understood. On my end, I'm aiming toward becoming a millionaire because it has been on my heart to change the world and make it a better place since I was 8 years old. I've been focused on that goal my entire life.
There you go.
And the more money I have, the more people I can reach with my business, the
That's right.
more I
That's
can
right.
put
Same
out
mission.
there, and I can get to the billions at that point. So,
That's
but
exactly it.
I can't get to the billions without being wealthy. Just I can't. So
Right.
I force myself to do things I don't want to do. I set major boundaries in my life and my business. I say no
Yeah.
to toxic
Yep.
romantic relationships that have the opportunity to be detrimental to my work if I allow them to continue all the things because this thing that has been on my heart and my soul since I was a little girl.
That's
That's
awesome.
why I do everything I do. I don't do it for the money. The money is part of getting to the billions of people.
Right. Right.
Yes.
It's just a matter of fact. It's a tool. It always has been a tool. It's a very useful one.
Hmm. Now, I want to go back to something you said with the business and
Yeah.
your dad.
Yeah.
You said it destroyed the business, but did it destroy you and your dad too?
He's very complicated figure, the man. He was already a federal felon from some pretty big stuff. I hired him
Mhm.
thinking he could never harm my business or me. I was
Oh,
proven wrong.
that's classic. People are like,
Yeah.
oh, this toxic behavior, the person's not going to do it to me. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, yeah, they did. Yeah, he
Yeah, they
did.
are.
So after the fact, I drew some pretty hard boundaries to your point and kept some distance, but we still saw at group family holidays and things. I wasn't going to destroy the whole family in favor of running from one person.
Yes.
So for quite a while, it was casually distant. And then he did some things that don't need to be said on this show,
No,
but
no, no.
they were personal affronts to other family members that would cause things to ripple effect to my family that were completely out of the business world.
Mm.
And so I drew a much harder boundary for the protection of my wife and kids. And so the last time we spoke before he died was probably 10 years before he passed because it had to be that way. It was just a matter of fact. There was there's no war, there's no malice.
Hmm.
All is forgiven in the way that it needs to be done for my own well-being.
Hmm.
And I even, while he was in the hospital for a year, basically on his deathbed for a year, very painful way to go. I did send him a very long video explaining that if he wanted to get out of that bed, he could do it because his purpose he had missed. And I
Mm.
believe he was extremely talented. And if in
Ooh,
his 70s he wanted to grow out of it, I believed he could get himself out of the bed, but he had to make that decision. And he had to choose a purpose that aligned with his God-given purpose. He didn't. And
wow.
so basically was preaching to him by video. I knew he wouldn't take my phone call.
Hmm.
And he saw some of the video but couldn't watch the rest, so I'm told, and that's okay too. But I gave him the truth one last time so that he knew that I believed in him more than he believed in himself.
And that's all we can do. And you have me almost in tears.
I'm sorry. I wasn't planning that, but that's just what happened.
It's okay because my story is so similar to yours.
Wow.
I have
Yeah.
had to have a healthy life. I've had to say no to my family. Like, I walked away from my family at 15,
Yeah. It took me a little bit longer, but I did the same.
and my father the same. He died on his deathbed alone
And same, yeah, same story. And
because
how sad.
I wasn't going to let him pollute me. He was saying awful things about me leading up to his death, and I'm like, nope, I'm not going to be there. Can't do it.
Yeah. I
Now,
even
this,
chose, I mean, I was invited to the funeral. I passed to be peaceful.
I chose the health of me. And,
Good
you know,
call.
I think that this is what it comes down to, and this is the most important message that people need right now, is it's
Yes.
our choice to have a healthy existence. It's our choice to have a healthy life. It's our choice to have those things. And it's what we're saying no to. It's what we're saying yes to. It's our decisions. And people that I have had to deal with personally and professionally recently are just projecting it all outward. It's like, no, people take a fucking stand and own your shit. Like,
No,
it's
and it's
all about
rampant though. We're
us.
seeing it here too. It's not, I can't say it's everybody, but there's some remarkable, notable people, and the remarkable and notable in the wrong ways because they're trying to deal their inadequacies, their failures out onto other people.
Yep.
And you can see them, and you're right. You got to draw that line. It's healthy, it's right, and some of them might wake up because that line might
Yes.
surprise them.
Yes. It's the only way that people are going to get lodged, disrupted out of
Yep,
their toxic patterning is
that's
when
right.
somebody like myself or yourself comes along and we care enough to say something. We care enough to say, you know what?
Yeah,
No, no, no. This behavior is not good. It's not healthy. And I'm
that's right.
only accepting healthy behavior, even if I have to fire you as a client. Even if I
Been
have to
there.
fire you from my life, I've done it too, but it's
Yeah,
for the health of the individual, not just the health of my world, but it's for the health of the individual.
quite true.
And that's what matters the most. And if we are going to make a change in this world, we have to live a healthy lifestyle and be healthy people. And that requires sacrifice. And that's
It
the
does
part
indeed.
where people get tripped up. They don't want to make the personal sacrifice by looking inward or saying no to the people that are causing them harm.
I would just encourage the audience, if anybody's going through this, the easy things in life are usually not very rewarding and frequently toxic, but the difficult things
Hmm.
are usually worthwhile over the long term. But in the short term, they're very difficult.
Mm,
And so you got to kind of sit there and weigh, what am I really looking at? And what is my emotional response to this? And what is my logical response? And have a conversation about it. And if it really is a people problem, Cloud and Townsend, the authors,
love
wrote
it. Boundaries.
Boundaries as well
Uh-huh.
as Safe People, both
Yes.
books.
Yes.
And they're a really good rubric for figuring out how to look at somebody and understand your relationship with them and how they stand as a person,
Mm.
understanding narcissism and, so psychopath, sociopath, those types of terms people throw around.
I
They don't
know.
really know what it means, and you
Right.
don't need to go to school to figure it out. You just need a really quality book, and those guys were great.
Yes. I 100% on board. Boundaries is a book that came into my world in my very early 20s and is a part of what helped me create a better life. Like,
Yeah,
there's a big part of it that I chose at a very young age. And then I chose to leave home at 15 because my intuition was very strong and it told me you've got to leave if you want to create a better life. But when
yeah.
boundaries came in, it was a game changer. That book, it doesn't matter. Like, yes, it's a Christian bent, but it doesn't matter what your religious
It really
preference
doesn't.
is.
Yeah,
If you can get past the part that is religious, the wisdom inside that book is
Yeah.
priceless. And that is
Yeah,
part
the
of what,
psychological rubric that they offer you is without religious overtone. Of course, you're right. It is a religious book, and there's going
Mhm.
to be some Jesus stuff in there.
Yeah.
But you're right. The rest is solid, solid as can be.
Oh my God, wisdom beyond wisdom in that book. And I
Shout
wouldn't
out to Cloud and Townsend.
exactly. I wouldn't be the boundary setter that I am today if it weren't
Yeah,
for me going through that book and digesting it like a kid in Christmas, you know? It was like,
yeah,
oh, this is the next step in saving my own life, right? And taking responsibility for the shit show that I was born into.
right.
So, you know, there was a conversation I had with a client today setting hardcore boundaries of we've got to shift things, otherwise this can't continue. And part of the conversation was, are you in survival mode? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, none of us make good decisions in survival mode.
Yeah,
So this is like the very base level of what we have to look at within ourselves. Is our world toxic? Well, what mode are we operating from? Are we operating from survival mode, or are we operating from a mode of truth and healthy, right? And this is
right.
what I
And if you're
always
not,
look
then you
for.
need an outside resource like a quality coach or therapist, depending on what
Correct.
your situation is,
Right.
to help you evaluate what is and isn't reality.
Sometimes both. I recommend that my clients have a therapist and me at the same time because
Yeah,
I dig up roots for people that are preventing
yeah.
them from putting the effort into whatever or their money story, whatever, right? I dig up the roots. And if they're not ready to fully release it, I ask them to go talk to their therapist about the trauma.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful symbiotic relationship that happens because I get to stay in my lane as their business success coach, and I get to help them figure out the parts of them that are they're getting in their own way, right? It's like, how do I get out of my own way? Oh, this is the root of why you're getting in your way right now. Okay, cool. We might need to employ a therapist to work through the deeper parts of this, right? So, yes, everybody that is listening, if you don't have a coach and a therapist, go get the combo.
Yeah, absolutely. a hundred
Yes.
percent. It is wisdom beyond belief to have the right wise counsel.
hmm So, in your profession, I know we're going a little bit over, but you are amazing, and this is such a juicy conversation. In your profession, you deal with business owners, podcasting, all the things.
Yeah.
What is the number one personal roadblock that you see within your clients that you help them get past?
It's funny. So most people come to us with this belief that social media and YouTube, which who knows whether it qualifies as social media or not, it's got kind of a hybrid, and
hmm
all these other digital things are some kind of holy grail that they're required to achieve. And it's intimidating and it's frustrating. And that's what they
hmm
come to us trying to own that. And I'm discovering that well, none of them want to be an influencer. Yet, if you go deep, you realize that influencer culture has tinted or tainted how they think about things, and they feel pressure to become one, even though it's highly unnecessary.
Okay.
So we just have to unpack how unnecessary that is. And I've explained our business model that it's a business development play. So we get back down to business
hmm
development tactics and worry about the ROI of relationships. And then what we're selling is the icing on the cake
hmm
is that we get to check all these boxes where they felt pressure. And it also buys them time to get to some ROI with an audience eventually because they've had ROI
hmm
with relationships and all this other stuff happens to keep coming from the relationships. So you just got this repeat layered extra benefit,
hmm
and so we're just changing people's perception of the situation. And so that's really the roadblock, is that the perception is that I have to become an influencer, or I have to spend a lot of money on Facebook ads so that I get a lot of
hmm
views so I can play. I had a friend who was a door knocker. He used to door knock to get roofing gigs,
hmm
and he knew he had to hit 200 doors a week to get 70 doors open, to get 10 meetings, to get 3 roofs.
hmm
And so he knew his numbers, and they bared reasonably true over the course of weeks and months.
hmm
So he knew his numbers, and it's exhausting and it's painful and it stinks. And it's
hmm
hard to get referral, repeat relationships out of those because he's too busy door knocking.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of people out there who will run numbers on Google ads, Facebook ads, all these other things where you're dumping money into a system and trying to extract things out. There's nothing wrong with them if it helps you. But if you're a small enough business or you're a high ticket, low transaction business, relationships were already everything, no matter what industry you're in, but they're more than everything when you're in a business like that. So
Hmm.
all the other stuff's just this massive distraction.
Hmm.
So it's just we got to get the distraction out of the way and talk about your sales and business development needs,
Hmm.
boost those to a whole new level, and enjoy the fruit of your labor with all the extra icing on this cake.
I love that. I love that you're removing the distractions for people, even if it's their own limiting beliefs or assumptions.
And that's what it is. We're all subject to it. I even get caught with it. I'll
Yeah.
see some business influencer who's got 20 million views on something, and I'll feel like, oh, I should too. I said something similar last week. And it's like, no, you know what? It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Because I have these incredible relationships that keep bearing
Hmm.
fruit. So
Right.
I mean, my company, part of my sales flow, I also host small private events to help unlock these
Mm,
ideas for people. And those events are another part of me sewing into people. I can't even do enough podcasts, frankly. Sometimes I have to just bring more people together.
mm.
And it's the small play, high value. But I got to teach people that.
Yes, yes, that's wonderful. Wow, I am so grateful for your time. I know we need to get
Thank
wrapping
you.
up. It has been a wonderful conversation, and I know that the audience is going to take so much away from it. And by the way, I don't pay attention to what other people are doing. I just do
Good.
me, and
That's right.
it's stress-free, y'all. It's
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
just
and
do
your
me.
audience should know that you're going to be on my show sometime soon. I saw it in my calendar, and that'll be fun too. So we're going to hear a lot more
Yes,
about you.
yes. We will be swapping later this week.
Cool. Awesome. Fun, fun.
Yes, it'll be so much fun. So, one more time, tell us what is your business and who do you help?
So we are C47 Digital Studios. C47Films.com is our URL if you want to check us out. And we help largely business to business sales and business development teams.
Hmm.
And that relationship really helps their marketing departments. We don't tend to talk to the marketing department until after we're working with sales and biz dev,
Hmm.
but all of them benefit from how we help them.
Wonderful. And who is your target audience currently?
Oh my. So, I mean, business to business sales, I don't care who it is, as long as it's high ticket, low volume, you are
Hmm.
ideal.
Okay.
So, we've got one client, manufacturing, they build the machines that make the machines. These are 20 to
Mm,
$50 million machines. You just need to
okay.
sell a couple of them.
Right. Right. Okay. Awesome. Wonderful. Well, if people want to reach out to you, what is your website? What's the best way?
It's
Well,
C47Films.com. We've got a great contact form on there and a lot of links to socials and whatnot. So C47Films.com. We'll see you there.
wonderful. Well, Josh, thank you so much for your time today. And I look forward to speaking with you again.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Mind podcast. Please be sure to download the Wealthy Mind app today and make sure to support your local Dress for Success.